Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa and I want to talk about the Overwatch psychology, the winning mentality, how to be positive and don't be negative. So we've all been there, right guys? I've been there. I was there the other day when I was playing Overwatch. I started the day almost rank 69. I think I was like literally 10 pixels off rank 69 and I ended up the day at rank 66. I was not happy. I was frustrated. I was getting angry and all of this stuff, and it's not good. What we need to do is we need to look at the kind of mind frame or the mindset we need to be in when we play team-based games. And obviously Overwatch is a team-based game. It's not a game where one guy can win the match. Sometimes, yeah, you can do something amazing which can contribute to the win, but it's very rarely that just having a guy on your team results in you winning that game. So let's talk about this toxic issue, and let's talk about bad behavior, and let's talk about things that you can kind of do to combat this. So this is a fact, right? In a team-based environment, if you start acting in a bad way, a toxic way, you start running down your team members, you start complaining, you start moaning about the enemy team, you start moaning in general, that will bleed off onto other players on your team. It will reduce their morale. You will not be playing at your optimum level because you're moaning about the enemy team, you're moaning about yourself, you're moaning about your team or whatever the hell you're doing. So your chances of winning are much lower. Now, I used to play football or soccer for you American chums out there, and I used to play it at quite a high level, and I was always the captain of the teams that I played in. So for me, controlling the morale of the team was a major thing, right? It was my job to like pick people up and say, it's alright, it doesn't matter that you've made a mistake, come on, we can do it, push through. That was my job, right? So to me, this kind of comes, well, I guess it comes naturally in a way because I'm so used to doing it, but it hasn't come natural. I've been trained to think this way. So I want to go over some points, right? And I just want to make some statements, and then we're going to talk about how this applies to Overwatch. So number one, bad games are a part of life. You will have a bad game, right? It doesn't matter. I have a bad game. Everybody has a bad game. That's fine. Don't linger on it. Just think, all right, I've had a bad game. Move on. Don't let that affect the next game that you go into. Overwatch matches generally are pretty quick, right? Maybe 10 minutes a game. After you come out of the game, you don't want to be thinking about the game you've just had and moaning about players' performance in that match because it makes no difference because you're in a new game now. And that negative attitude will bleed through. There are also a million things a player cannot control that will contribute to a poor performance. Think about it, right? And I guess this is point two, but think about it. If you've got a guy in your team who starts lagging or disconnects from the game or something like that, you can't control that, but it means you lose. You just need to let it go. Things are out of your control. It's an act of God, if you will. It's fine. Just let it go. Now, number three, improvements occur in small little chunks, and they don't just happen in one massive sort of avalanche overnight. You will get better at the game, but you'll get better at the game over time. You need to focus on little things that you do well and start building on them. What you need to not do is think to yourself, we lost that game, that was terrible, but actually you might have played really well in that game and some other issue might have contributed to your loss. I guess number four, progress, it hinges upon a player's ability to learn, listen, take risks, analyze what's going on, look at the whole process. You need to sort of be aware of everything. Don't block things out. Don't think to yourself, I'm not listening to that guy. I'm not talking to this guy. I'm going to sort of ignore what that person's doing. I'm just going to do this. You need to be aware of what's going on all the time because that'll make you a better player. So number five, bad games are not the same as bad results, really. I just sort of touched on this. So if you have a bad result, right, but you play really well, then focus on the positives. You can play extremely well but still lose. This is a team game. I go back to my football or soccer comparison. I've had games where I've scored a hat-trick, but we've still lost. How is that possible? I've had a great game. I've scored 3 goals. Our defence has not played so well, so we've conceded 4. Well, that's all right. I know I've played well. Other people have let themselves down, and they need to look at themselves and think, how can they do better? But what you need to not do is think to yourself, oh, that was a terrible game. I was doing so well, and you lot have cost me the game, which happens a lot. And I'm guilty of this on Overwatch. I'll say things like, oh, I've got 4 gold medals here. What's going on? But we've still lost. All I need to do is think, okay, I did my job well. That's fine. We'll move on to the next game. I guess number 6, you've got to be realistic, right? Don't try and like palm your I guess, shortcomings off onto other people. If you know you've done something wrong, just own up to it, right? You will see this on Overwatch, where if you do something or you pop your ultimate, this is kind of the worst thing you can do, right? Is use your ultimate at the wrong time. So say you're Zenyatta, and then for some reason you pop your Transcendence at completely the wrong time, and the team will be like, what? What are you doing? Like, I pick up on this straight away. I'll be like, why have you ulted? I'll just say it straight away. I don't mean to be aggressive. I don't mean to be like in that person's face. But I'm like, what the fucking hell is going on? Why have you done this? The problem is, though, that player, I mean, if you do it, right, you know you've done it, yeah? You don't need to be told that you've used your ultimate at the wrong time or anything like that. But what you need not do is read into the comments and be like, oh, God, and then get involved in an argument. I've seen people do this before. So they'll sit there and they'll start bashing out comments in the chat, and then they start attacking people. Maybe somebody gets called out on why they're playing a certain character and not playing the character too well, and yet that person will then launch into a massive tirade saying, shut your mouth, I'm great at this character. They're not playing the game when they're doing this, and they're also reducing team morale, so the chances of losing are going to go down. Now I want to talk about some other points as well, just some sort of general points that I think we all need to be aware of. And this is really interesting to me because the kind of sports psychology aspect of team-based games really does bleed into Overwatch, because it is a sport and it's a team-based game, right? So it just completely crosses over, and we've got the luxury of having literally hundreds of years of experience with team-based games. So, well, not me personally, but like science as a whole. So we've got a lot of information to pull from, which makes making a video like this awesome, because I can pull in loads of stuff from all kinds of places about sports psychology. We can talk about it, and I've got evidence to back up what I'm saying. Although I do think a lot of what I'm saying actually is sort of common sense, right? If you be positive, you'll probably win more. If you let things go over your head a little bit more, like, oh yeah, we lost, it was a bad game, that's fine, move on to the next game. Overwatch matches, they're not like a game of football or soccer, or it's not like a game of League of Legends or something where it takes like a long time for the game to finish. They can be over in 10 minutes. Just forget about it, move into the next game. So I think you need to realise that confidence will fluctuate. Now, this happens for everybody, right? Even the people who are the absolute best of any kind of sport. So if you're an absolute top-tier Overwatch esports pro, you will have a moment in that tournament where you play extremely bad, you do something totally terrible. It's going to happen, right? Your confidence will go down. No player in any sport in the history of anything has managed to have 100% confidence all the time and play extremely well every single game. You will make mistakes, so you just need to be aware of that. I'm going to make mistakes. That's fine. When they happen, this is what determines how good you actually are. Because when the mistakes hit, what do? Do you get toxic? Do you get angry? Or do you think, it's fine, and you just move on? Please get into the frame of mind of just thinking, it's fine, I'm just going to move on. Now, you need to focus on yourself as well. Don't focus on others. Think about how well you're doing, or things you've done well. Don't think to yourself, what are my opponents doing? What is my team doing? What is this guy doing? I touched on this a little bit earlier on, but what you don't want to do is go down the path of throwing abuse at your own team, or, I mean, we've all done it, right? I did it the other day. Everybody does this, but you need to just deal with it in some way and get past it. So I had a game. There was a Roadhog in the game, and the Roadhog was not the best. He was in the wrong position a lot of the time. He was way too far. He was too aggressive. He was attacking the enemy as they were attacking, like on his own, effectively, not even with the team. He was dying, but then he put into the chat, oh my God, where's my support? He doesn't realise that he actually is in a really bad position. I didn't flame the guy in the game. I never really do that. At the end of the game, though, I was like, Jesus Christ, that Roadhog cost us the game. Now, he might have cost us the game, but I just need to let that go. We all need to let that go. Focus on yourself and focus on how you can get better. Don't really bother too much about what your teammates are doing. I know it's a team-based game, so you can offer advice, but don't get hung up on it, because that's just going to result in a higher chance of you losing that game or taking a negative attitude into the next game, which is not what you want to do. Concentrate on the process as well. Concentrate on what you're doing. Don't concentrate too much on the outcome. So think to yourself, I'm going to go into this game and I'm going to play Soldier 76, and I'm going to try and do the most damage on the team. And I'm going to do this by focus firing the correct targets, by taking up good positions. That is what you're going to do in the game. You don't care about what's going to happen at the end of the game, because if you do your job right, there's a very good chance you will actually win the game. Don't go into a game thinking, yeah, we're going to win, let's go and win. Go into a game thinking, what am I going to do? And how am I going to do it? Because if you do that thing right that you're going to do, then you'll probably win the game. It's a nice little side effect. And I guess lastly, try and focus on what you're doing right and try and learn from that. I know a lot of people do tend to say, look at your mistakes and learn from your mistakes. That's fine. But sometimes you need to focus on what you're actually doing that is working and think to yourself, right, I know this works and I know I'm good at this, because then that can make you move on to another thing that you can potentially try and master. Because if you keep focusing on mistakes all the time, that again is installing this negative mindset, which then means that your confidence will probably start to drop, which then means that maybe you start getting a little bit toxic, maybe you get a little bit BM, which means bad manners, guys. Maybe you get a little bit like, you know, nasty-ish, and you start affecting your team in a negative way, and then your chance of winning starts to drop. I'm going to leave it at that, guys, because I think this has been quite an interesting video. I've spoke about this before. A couple of months ago, I spoke about toxic behavior in pugs, and then I spoke about, like, you really don't want to be toxic. But this video has been more of a kind of like the psychology of Overwatch, right? You need to get into a frame of mind that you're playing in a team. This is very much a team game. I always like to say this, but this isn't Counter-Strike, right? In Counter-Strike, you can have a player that can kill the whole enemy team. In Overwatch, it is practically impossible to win a 2v1 if the players are all of the same level. Once you start getting up through the ranks, once you get past rank 65, it starts getting very, very, very equal. It comes down to how the teams play. It comes down to how your ultimates are, what synergy you've got with them, how you push as a team, how you work together as a team. And all of that will come if you've got a positive attitude and you focus on yourself, focus on what you can do, and then, yeah, offer advice to your teammates, but don't try and bully them into doing things. Try and be supportive of your team and try and get yourself and your team into a relaxed winning state of mind. That's all this has been about, guys. I want you to let me know in the comments below what you think about this video, because it has been a very different video. It has been I guess it's been like a discussion video, but it's been a video with quite a lot of information in it. So I want you guys to let me know what you think about this in the comments below. I also want you to leave any comments with any tips that you may have. Maybe leave some examples of times when you might have raged, or maybe times when you've seen people do it on your team and it's resulted in a loss. Alright, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. I've been Stylosa. This is Unit Lost. You can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and I'll catch you on the next one. Toodaloo.